Well, drag is dead, but I'm the funeral director. Hit it! Hi, ugly. It's me, and welcome back to Hot or Rot, and oh my god, did mommy miss you. Today we'll be reviewing episode 6 of RuPaul's Drag Race UK Season 4. Our queens were challenged to make RuPaul laugh in Snatch Game. You know the drill, and the runway category was Tickled Pink. And the Snatch Game episodes are ones that I always find interesting from a storytelling perspective. They're, I think, the most obvious in terms of what the producers want us to see. The number of responses a queen is shown giving to Ru during Snatch Game typically reflects their episodic placements, whether that's in the top or bottom. And rarely, if ever, is a fair Snatch Game actually shown on TV. But what you see isn't always the truth. So as we go through each queen today, we'll be looking at the number of responses they gave and how that reflects what happened in the episode. But first, I sure loved Snatch Game, but you know what I love even more? My skin. And that's thanks to Curology, the sponsor of today's video. So I've actually been using Curology's 3-step routine for about a year now, and I couldn't be happier with the results. I use their pH balance cleanser and moisturizer twice a day, and at night I apply my custom Curology formula made just for me by a Curology skincare provider. And after a few weeks of using Curology, I noticed my breakouts were less frequent and less severe. Plus my skin is less oily overall, and the tone and texture has improved across my face. And I'm excited to share I've added the new Curology sunscreen to my skincare routine for when I step out of the studio and into the light. The Curology sunscreen is a no-clog, truly grease-free SPF 30 face sunscreen that melts right into your skin. And I actually wore this at ACL, which is like an all-day music festival thing, standing in the sun for 3 days this past weekend, and no burns, no breakouts. I've also been keeping my back and shoulders acne-free with the Curology body wash and my lips fresh and hydrated with the Curology lip balm. And no, Curology isn't a miracle working product, but if anything unexpected ever pops up, I just throw on an emergency spot patch and let the healing begin. And signing up for Curology is simple. Start by clicking the link in the description of this video. On their site, you'll take a quick quiz to assess your skincare needs and send in 3 selfies. A Curology skincare provider will take a look at everything you've sent in and then create a custom formula just for you. And best of all, when you sign up for Curology using the link in the description of my video, you'll get your first month for free. Just pay $5 shipping and handling. Thanks, Curology, for sponsoring today's video. Get your calculators ready, set, go! First up, Dakota Schiffer. Okay, I'll stop. Now, Miss Dakota is a queen that truly surprised me tonight. I went into this episode thinking, I really want to see some edge. I want to see her push some boundaries. And I guess she read my mind from the past because she did Pete Burns for Snatch Game. Pete Burns was a music artist slash personality who sadly passed 6 years ago. You may have known Pete's song Spin You Right Round, which was like back in the 80s. And unfortunately, I know that song not from living through the 80s, but from a particular website about meat that would spin. If you know, you know, and I hope for your sake you don't. But anyways, I was really pleasantly surprised with this Pete Burns from Dakota. She was shown giving 3 responses to Ru, all of which he laughed at. And my favorite was when she was going on about Michelle getting her brain replaced, and then saying her Vogue routine made her sick to the point of nausea. And not only were all of her responses funny, but I think she had one of the more original performances in Snatch Game. These are the out of left field type of characters that I like to see done in Snatch Game well. And obviously I think she Pete Burned up the Snatch Game stage. This was hot. And it's indeed a double feature for Miss Dakota tonight, because on the runway, I was thinking of a sports phrase, slam dunk. I think she looks absolutely gorgeous, and I think this look is also very draggy. It's too much with that huge cape trailing behind her, and also too little with that dress skirt line being, you know, placed real high up on those legs. This is the outfit you wear when you go to enter the hotel door room and you're wearing nothing but your nightie and you throw the duvet over your shoulders so you're more covered up. And I think it's hot. Next up, Black Peppa, who in Snatch Game tonight did Lil Nas X. And his ACL set, by the way, was phenomenal. If you have a chance, go see him live. Oh my god. The outfits, the performance, the drag of it all. I was living. As a Snatch Game character though, I was dying. My take on Lil Nas is his humor feels very nuanced. When he's making jokes online, and he often does, you kind of have to know the joke on the joke on the joke. It's like deep internet culture stuff a lot of times, or just like so stupid that there's no point at all. And generally speaking, I think that type of humor is hard to sell maybe to an in-person audience, and probably even harder to sell to somebody like Rupaul. She was shown giving 3 responses to Ru, none of which he she laughed at, and all of which were confusing. For example, Ru asks her, what does the X in Lil Nas X stand for? And she says, X stands for how many chromosomes are there? Ru says, how many do you have? And then Peppa says, I have as many as you want, daddy. This was one of those Snatch Game performances to me that I was laughing at watching because it was so awkward and, as Peppa has put out on the interwebs, cringy. The other one that was absolutely sending me was, she says, I went to the club the first time and they gave me water. It was amazing. I don't know what she was saying or why. I think the bigger problem, though, was not Peppa's choice of character, but rather Peppa's real problem was her inner saboteur working against her before Snatch Game even started. She's in the workroom talking about how she doesn't think she's funny and doesn't feel confident about the challenge. This performance was iconic in its own right, but it was not a #1 hit, so I'm gonna give it a And over on the runway, our queen of headpieces once again reigns mightily. And my first thought about this look was, it certainly is interesting, but I wasn't quite sure what it was until I was able to get a closer inspection on everything. In fact, because of the runway lights, the softer pink tones in the hat and the pants weren't even reading as pink. And the jacket being red and white checks didn't really help with the delivery of the pink theme either. We do see, though, as she gets closer to the panel, her head is made out of what is meant to be cotton candy that she's eating. And I'm gathering the jacket was supposed to be some kind of candy wrapper. And the other thing I was confused about was in her confessional, she is explaining that the runway is Marge Simpson, but make it pink? I was like, I don't know what's happening! But once we got to the end of it all, I really did appreciate the look because I think it's a really interesting silhouette. The fashion of it is visually entertaining. And overall, the reveal of having candy in the hat was super fun. And I'm going to give this sweet treat a hot. Next up, this is your sign to clean your room, you filthy animals. It's LaFille as Marie Kondo. And this was a really interesting pick, I think, from Phil. I had heard the whole, does this spark joy? And if not, get rid of it thing going around like a year or two ago. But I never actually looked up who the person saying that was. And she is, according to her business's website, a Japanese organizing consultant, author, and TV presenter. She's written 4 books on organizing, which have collectively sold millions of copies around the world. And she even has a series on Netflix and some digital exclusives like this one with Hassan Minaj, where she goes through some of his stuff in his life, asking if it sparks joy or not.
Yeah, it makes me really happy.
You'll notice in this clip she's speaking Japanese, which means they're communicating through a translator, which also gave me some context for why LaFille was making the jokes that they were making. All of which, by the way, relied on some sort of word mistranslation, listening to the translator in her ear, or misspelling words. We saw 3 responses from Phil, and Rupaul laughed at none of them. There was that very awkward response that Rupaul just kind of does where he's like, okay. And as the judges mentioned during their critiquing session, there were probably a million different directions Phil could have taken this character. Make her filthy, make her a raging bee, but ultimately there was no depth beyond miscommunicating or mistranslating words. I was watching like, girl, the joke's not landing. Let's do a different one. And she kept doing the same thing. For me, this performance did not spark joy. It was a And upon reflection of this episode, I was thinking how strange it was that her Snatch Game character was so one-dimensional while her outfit on the runway was literally everything but the kitchen sink. She is literally wearing a giant pink tent as a gown, complete with an umbrella on her head because why the hell not? And the utility doesn't end there because underneath the tent, she's got bags and bags and bags, and God knows what else. This outfit is perfect for when you got the Girl Scouts meeting at 7 and the Met Gala at 9. In fact, I'm telling my kids that this was the 2019 Met Gala. LaFille looking camp straight in the eye. I know I'm being really silly about this look because it is so silly. It's very whimsical, fresh, and interesting all around. Words that I think, having seen LaFille on a few episodes of Drag Race, very well describe them. The drag and drama of it all. I loved this look and I'm gonna give it a hot. Next up, Pixie Polite, who did Dame Shirley Bassey for Snatch Game. And when Rupaul was walking through the workroom, Rupaul did give Pixie a little cautionary warning about doing this character. With Pixie not being the same skin color of Shirley Bassey and all. And they end up having a productive conversation about how Pixie wants to focus on the mannerisms of Shirley and nothing more. Unfortunately, though, Pixie's bold choice had a really weak payoff. She was shown giving 3 responses, 2 of which Rupaul kind of laughed at. She would start off funny in both of these instances and then kind of trail off into nothing. It was like she saw the song title Diamonds Are Forever by Shirley Bassey and then decided that was her entire personality, I guess. I think the issue she was facing was a nervousness to volley with Ru because he'll do that during Snatch Game. He's kind of testing the queens and putting feelers out to see who can handle what type of questions. And every time Ru went back for more, Pixie just kind of crumbled. And while diamonds may be forever, this performance was a but over on the runway, she's got a bit of a redemption this episode. Her tickled pink look is an homage to Ru's iconic original drag race pink jumpsuit. It fits well, she's got a great silhouette, the helmet with the hair coming out of it is very cute, and the flag reveal was campy and fun. I'd certainly throw it on for a few laps around the track in my race car. I think though the look kind of lacked impact with the judges because everyone seemed to have a different frame of reference for what she was doing. Alan Carr said she reminded him of Cheryl Hole, and the guest judge Mel B says Baby Spice wore something similar. I thought she kind of looked like the Pink Power Ranger. And all those things can be good for relatability, but it does have that I've seen this before, give me something new type of reaction. Again though, I like the look. It just maybe needed an oil change or some fresh tires, you know, something to make it more original. I'll give this look a very safe hot. Next up. That was my impersonation of Danny Beard impersonating Cilla Black. Thank you. Which I hope emphasizes pretty much nothing of what Danny Beard said could be understood. That said, I didn't totally hate it. I'm gathering there is some sort of joke I'm missing though. I've looked at some performance videos from her and I don't really get the quality that she's speaking like that. She's, from what I can tell, a very nice lady who was a singer and television presenter in England. It was kind of lukewarm for me. We saw 4 responses from her, one of which was an ad-lib into Black Peppa's response, and Ru laughed at 2 of them. This was just though another one-dimensional character from our Snatch Game panel tonight, and this coming from Danny really surprised me because Danny absolutely nailed the improv challenge and the musical and like pretty much everything they've done. To be specifically bad at improv while impersonating somebody else seems out of character. Ha. For Danny. So yeah, this was a rot. On the runway though, Danny's giving us pink popsicle dream ice cream perfection. And this look is more of what we have grown to love from Danny on the runway. Clean, sophisticated silhouettes, giving fashion, giving gender bending, and overall, fresh concepts, I would say. Is the silhouette similar to a lot of her earlier runways this season? Yes, but I think it is different enough that it definitely breathes on its own. And I really loved the details of like the pink mustache and the whimsical feathers on the sleeves of the arm. She, I think, leaned really well into Tickled Pink. She owns 51% of this soft serve company. This look is hot. Next up. Jonbers Blonde, who in Snatch Game wanted to do Enya. Rupaul kind of gets her off of that idea and onto St. Paddy. St. Patrick, but all dragged up. He was very obviously just playing into the stereotype of you're Irish, do something Irish. Really though, it's a good suggestion from Ru. He's using his producer hat to look for the common denominator, something that is easily sellable to a large audience who's watching the show, and that also he probably personally will think is funny. But I, in that same chair, would do literally whatever the hell Rupaul told me to do. If she says to do something for Snatch Game, you do it. And if you don't, you pay the price. We have seen queens pay the price. UK Season 3. So Jonbers tests the luck of the Irish, and it turns out she's quite lucky. The character she brings to Snatch Game, though, while I guess completely fictional, St. Paddy, was a lot of fun. Jonbers is really made to do something like Snatch Game, or the improv thing, or the musical. I mean, like, there's a lot of stage-ready personality in this queen. That is a professional. All 3 of the responses that Jonbers gave were laughed at by Ru. And another Snatch Game she maybe could have won. She not only played ball, but I think hit a home run. This was hot. On the runway though, Tickled Pink. She certainly hit the brief. We're getting the pink feathers tickling her, I suppose. But the weird thing about this look was she comes out kind of looking like a pink toilet paper roll or like Jasmine Masters in her butterfly thing coming down the runway. And I was like waiting for the reveal for so long. I'm like, girl, what is this? And then to have it finally revealed to like a Sweet 16 kind of homecoming prom dress thing was a little bit of a letdown, I'll admit. Although for the amount of time she made us wait for that reveal, I would have been a little disappointed with anything less than a pot of gold. She looks gorgeous, yes. I just was not too excited by the look look personally. So because of that, I am going to give this look a rot. Next up, grab a slice. It's Cheddar Gorgeous. Dr. Cheddar Gorgeous if you're nasty. And in Snatch Game, Cheddar does Queen Elizabeth I, who, as a reminder, is one of the many members of the various royal families we have seen over the years appear in Snatch Game. Rosé did Mary Queen of Scots on season 13, Anita Wiglet did Queen Elizabeth II on her Snatch Game, Down Under 1, which got her a win, and heavy is the crown, but Cheddar Gorgeous wears it well. This was a phenomenal performance from Cheddar. It was extremely theatrical, and, you know, take a character that everybody loves and make them skanky. She did that. What really put the nail in the coffin, though, in this performance was that crazy, like, Pennywise, evil clown laugh that she would do after every response. If you didn't laugh at the actual thing she wrote on the card, you were laughing at that. All four of the responses that she was shown giving to Rupaul in Snatch Game were laughed at and received well. She really was the main character of Snatch Game in this season. She's got a brain and she's not afraid to use it. This performance was hot. Now we jump into her runway, which is not only a great piece of living art, but an homage to queer history. She's wearing a black kind of netted bodysuit, and there's a pink triangle everywhere you look. And there are straps going around her body that say silence equals death. And she talks about how this look is reclaiming the pink triangle in a way that the ACT UP group did back in the 80s during the HIV crisis. The pink triangle has been reappropriated from a symbol of oppression to a symbol of queer resistance. And during the episode, we also hear Cheddar talk about the destigmatization of HIV, the invention of PrEP, a wonderful pill that you can take to help prevent the virus, and reminds everyone that undetectable is untransmittable. And this look is so important to see on TV, especially, I think, for the younger generation, because there is not a lot of great public education about the virus or its history, or even the queer culture's relation to it in the 80s. Cheddar is literally educating the children, pushing boundaries, and Cheddar has wrapped all of this up in a signature, identifiably Cheddar Gorgeous package. Obviously, this look, I think, is hot. And looking back at this Snatch Game overall, my initial thoughts when watching it were, this seemed short. Normally during Snatch Game, we see confessionals edited in to help drive the narrative of who's doing well or not well. And we usually see a lot more interactions between the contestants on the panel. There was literally one shown when Danny Beard added something into what Peppa said. In fact, there were only 23 responses shown at all during this Snatch Game, an average of 3.28 per person. While for comparison, the easy data I had on hand was from Canada's Drag Race Season 3, where they had 8 contestants and we were shown a total of 32 responses, including confessionals. That averages about 4 responses per queen. More interestingly though, this was I think the most evenly distributed in terms of responses Snatch Game I have ever seen. Every contestant was shown with either 3 or 4 responses. In the Canada 3 example I was just using, there would be queens with like 2 shown responses, who were basically completely overlooked and forgotten about during Snatch Game, and then queens with like 5 responses who would be in the top or bottom. And that's pretty standard fare for Snatch Game. There is a heavy-handed edit in every single one of them I've ever seen, except this one. And really, looking back at this season as a whole, I will say it has felt pretty fairly judged. There has not been a ton of like, whoa, wait, what just happened moments, which basically was every episode of season 3. So maybe the producers took some notes there and said, we need to chill out with all that. Or maybe they just found themselves in a situation where it simply made the most sense to include an even number of responses because that was the best way they could fill the time. I think it's also worth noting here, this episode was very dominated by Cheddar Gorgeous in the challenge and runway. It felt very much like a defining moment for her, as did last episode for Danny Beard. That is to say, I think they're starting to storytell to us who the top 4 is going to be. Anywho, Cheddar Gorgeous gets the win this week, and yeah, I very much agree with that. In the bottom 2 are LaPhil and Black Peppa, which was very sad to me, but I also agreed with this bottom 2. At least from what we saw in the edit, right? That lip sync though, girl, that was wild. I did react to it over on my Patreon at patreon.com/BussyQueen. That's my members only website where my Patreon family gets exclusive member benefits like early access to my YouTube videos, access to exclusive videos, and access to the Bussy Queen Discord server. And you can join by clicking the link in the description of this video. See you there. But as I mentioned earlier, LaPhil had everything in this dress but the kitchen sink. Maybe not, she probably did. She was pulling out fabric. She was taking her shoes off and dumping leaves on the stage. She was like laying in a pile of her outfit and things. I was like, girl, too much. It's too much. It's too much. Also, I don't really want to see like a bare foot. If she had taken the shoes off and had another pair of shoes underneath, that's the reveal we need. So I did agree with the elimination choice, and Black Peppa survives the bottom two. As for my hottest hots this week, obviously, Cheddar Gorgeous gets the challenge and Runway for me, but I really want to give an extra round of applause to Dakota Schiffer for her Snatch Game. I thought it was great. I also asked my patrons and they agree with me on the challenge and Runway. And finally, I want to say thank you so much to you for watching today's video and give an extra special shout out to today's video sponsor, Curology, who you can check out using the link in the description of this video. When you sign up, you'll get your first month free. Just pay $5 shipping and handling. I also want to give an extra special shout out to Aiden the Individual, Asa Hakel, Ashley Brungard, Cyrus Dickey, Felicia, Frankie Fernandez, Hector C. Mancas, Jeffrey Steenberg, Joseph Kyle, Laura, Sat, Louis Labrador, Luke Peterson, Mark James, Matthew Burns, Matto, Michelle, Your Bell, Miss F. Neely, Sailor, Stephen Topher, Travis Lundy, Wheelie, and Will and Tana, who were all supporting me at my Bussy Queen collector tier. See you later. Love ya. Bye.